Hey, everybody. What am I hearing? Oh, I'm hearing myself. Okay. Turning off all the extraneous windows. Welcome back to the Quantum Show. It is panel discussion time. Coming in the front door. Keith, welcome back to the Quantum Show panel discussion. Thank you for coming in, man. Sorry, say that again? Welcome back to the panel.
Hi, how are we?
Pretty good. You are here and coming in the front door right behind you. Hey, Tim, welcome back to the panel. Thanks for coming on.
It's good to see you, Mr. Andrews.
Well, nice seeing you too there, Tim. By the way, the echo you were getting there, Nathan, was I had the stream on my YouTube running, and I didn't know where the hell the channel was. So it's been muted.
Yeah, I had mine going as well. I was like, why is the intro playing? And I'm on because it was the delay and also yours. And it was like the weirdest echo ever.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like a three-dimensional echo. Had three layers of sound going on. I was like, did I do something wrong? Yeah, we both. But anyway, shout out.
I gotta say, Tim, everybody tells me my sideburns are well developed. Yours make mine look like a shambles.
Yeah. It's getting there. It's getting there. The wife still doesn't want to get cut, so it gets bigger and bigger.
Well, this is why with my fiance, I asked her if she liked long hair. And she goes, I prefer it short, but she says it's not a deal breaker. I said, you misunderstand. I was going to cut it. And it was just a question of whether or not you liked it long. If you liked it long, I was going to leave it alone.
Right.
But like I told her, I'm not losing the burns. You just deal with it.
Yeah. It's the long hair show for sure. The long hair quantum show. We have long hair. I just don't have a big beard to talk about. I do have the long rock and roll style hair. It's all good. Welcome everybody to the chat room. We got No Memes, Carnundrum, Renee, and I believe I said Aussie, you, Tim, Keith,
Tonbuck.
Yeah, and who else is here? Rachel is coming back. Thank you so much. And let's see, Sarah is over there. And who else we got? Sarah, Nathan. Okay, that's it for now, I believe. Or did somebody just come in the door? Nope. I think No Memes. Did I say your name? Hope so. I'll say it again.
No, you didn't.
Oh, I didn't? Okay. Well, Aussie has a mullet. Okay. Oh, yeah. I showed that picture of Aussie I had. So I don't have it handy to show it again. And Keith is also in the chat.
Yeah.
All righty then. So yeah, I put in that title, Transhumanism, Aliens Here, Dealing with Manifestation, meaning the results that I talked about before. You never know what you're going to get, and you deal with it. I didn't know I was going to be living in Muggle metropolis, but I'm dealing with it because the Muggle problems are coming up on me with this medical stuff. And yeah, it's always fun. I want more activity, but I think they're taking care of me for not pounding me with activity because I got this stuff to deal with. There's a balance there. Right. There seems to be a balance there. The universe, the force, whatever, gives you what you can deal with, but not too much.
I'd argue that point quite vehemently,
You do?
The number of times what they've given me has killed me has not been exactly a joyride.
Okay, well, you're still here. So that tells me it's not too much.
Well, I keep telling people God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over.
Right. So Tim and Keith, since I got you both here, this may not be, I don't know how familiar of a topic this is to you, Tim or Keith. Sorry, I'm tired. This may end up being a short panel. Transhumanism, right? So Keith, let me get you to begin with the idea of transhumanism, and we'll just talk about it.
Okay, well, not knowing what the actual definition of it is by human standards, I look at it as a very simple issue. Virtually everybody I've ever met, in fact, everybody I've ever met that is a human in this lifetime wasn't always. Okay, some of their past lives, some of their past vehicles were not human. Now, where we run into an interesting snag is I run into people that go, I'm not human. I'm an alien from X planet, X dimension. Well, we're not going to bother with dimensional issue here. But I will tell you, if your memory of a past life is more dominant or more enjoyable than your memory of what's going on in this life, the odds are you're going to look at it as though you're not human. Fact, though, if you respond to standard human medication and you require standard human food, I hate to tell you this, but you're in a human body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Tim, take it away.
Well, transhumanism is about the evolving of the human condition and technological acceleration. Transhumanism is the idea that transformation is at the heart of science, and it's what's driving the human condition. Transhumanism is the idea that we're going to be reshaped by the digital age anyway. So why not go ahead and augment ourselves with programs like CRISPR and artificial intelligence? And you were talking about Elon Musk's program. I forgot what it's called.
Neuralink.
Yes. Neuralink is an internet interface that you can get in your head. Before that used to be called schizophrenia, but now you actually
now it's deliberate.
Yes. Now you can tune in the internet in your head and, play, I don't know, Minecraft or whatever.
So isn't that along the same lines, therefore, as electroshock therapy used to be called electrocution?
Yeah. Well, it is an example of one group is fearful of something that is emerging, and another group is embracing what is emerging, and there's a conflict coming between the two groups. Basically, one day there's going to be a planet of humans going, I'm an unaugmented human, and everyone's naked on the planet, just to show that they're unaugmented. And but in the planets that I'm going to live on, they embrace augmentation, and it should be my human right to use a CRISPR machine on myself if I want to. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I should have a basic and inalienable right to alter my own DNA however I want in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it being available. But when it comes to AI, I got no problem with AI. I just like to see more RI.
What's all right?
Real intelligence.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, basically, we're looking for consciousness and intelligence everywhere we look. I'm not talking about myself. I'm kind of half trancing it tonight. I apologize. It may be good, it may be bad for us, but it's just what's happening to my brain right now. But I see a place where we're an animal that doesn't want to eat so close to the plate that it eats one of its own children.
I know animals like that. They're great.
Yeah. Well, that's what I see us as. Yeah, I mean, in the big sense, the big capital God sense. We don't want to eat our own children. So we come up with all of these rules to decide how to eat further away from the plate.
Yeah, see, that's the weird part, is what people are using technology for at this point. There's a reason I don't myself look at technology and go, gee, I think that's a great thing. Let's hook in. I short the poor things out when I walk by them. Can you picture how much fun I'm going to have? You put one in me?
Yeah.
You know, I can see this being a little bit of a hiccup.
I don't see a problem with any technology, any augmentation. I just I want to be an early adopter so that I can get an off switch installed. Basically, if we don't early adopt, then how do we keep them from cutting into our heads when it's just necessary to wear a hat?
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that note. I mean, the reality is technology is here. It's not going away unless mankind keeps doing what it's doing. And then you're hooped.
Conundrum brings up a good point. Talking about transhumanism, what about other species? Now, I'm going to skip the rock part because that's a little more advanced than I want to go into tonight. But the tree, we have done this with plants already. There are experiments going on that you can do at home. Tim, you were telling me about they were taking electrical impulses from plants and turning them into musical notes. They were turning them into music. We were talking about this at one point.
Yeah, it fascinates me the way that you can use a plant to generate a yes or no, maybe bias, like anything else. You can use a plant as a brain.
There was a neat study done about 30 years ago, multiple times, and people at home can do this yourself. They took 3 rooms, right? In one case, it took 3 rooms. In another case, it took 3 sections of an orchard. One section, all they did was water it and fertilized it. The second section, they went in and they used the same watering, same fertilization and lighting in all 3 areas. But in the second room, they talked really, really pleasantly, really engaging with the plants, really upbeat music, laughing, singing. The plants grew like wildfire. The orchard produced doubled its normal output. But in the other room, in the other section, they screamed at it. We are pointing at the desk.
Vibrations, good vibrations.
Oh, no, he's pointing at the comment.
Oh, okay. The other section, they screamed at it, yelled at it, fought with it. The plants withered and died.
Right.
And this happens. It happens in our world today. And this is what I was talking about some time back about if people keep focusing on all the negative stuff they're putting out there, you're literally killing the planet. and I'm not sure, but since this is the only one we actually live on, might be an idea to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of attached to it. The thing that concerns me, especially with this transhumanism thing, okay, we get better and more connected to computers and what have you, but we're still blowing out the power grid. Now, I can see there's going to be a problem here. If you're relying on the power lines, and you're blowing them out now, putting your lifeline attached to an electrical circuit board may cause a problem for your life expectancy.
I think they picture more piezoelectronic systems in the future. The transhumanism is an idea that just allows a person to adapt their way of thinking to technology. It's been here. Da Vinci, probably wore glasses to read and didn't think about anything about it. We augment our lives in technological ways to create the safety net for ourselves all the time. But the Bible always told us that was wrong. And I don't think that that's necessarily a wrong thing to do, to augment your environment to suit your biological needs.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but I'm not debating what the Bible said. I'm literally about 100 to 150 pages from finishing reading it cover to cover. But if you go with the idea that God created everything and the whole 9 yards, then why would he create the possibility, even the possibility of creating these technological advancements and augmentations, if he didn't want you to have the option of putting them to rational use?
Exactly.
I don't see an evil part here, aside from people's use of whatever it is. But then let's face it, a credit card in the wrong hands becomes a murder weapon.
Exactly.
In my case, it became a suicide run.
Right. And well, all of this being said, Tim brought it up in backstage one time, like 4 weeks ago, like a month ago, that when does it become transhuman? When we use glasses, hearing aids, implants, pacemakers.
Yeah.
When is it transhuman, and when is it? What's the barrier? What's the crossover? Like, I like to compare science fiction, as everyone here knows, right? Because most of us, this is going to be a little bit obscure, but the Cybermen, and there
I remember it. I forget who wrote it, but I remember it.
Right. I can't remember the name of the guy either, but the original Cybermen, it was a twin Earth, right? And it became a rogue planet, but it got further and further out, and it got colder and colder. They started modifying their bodies in order to survive the cold. That's what the whole thing was about. There's two different versions of Cybermen, right? I'm going with this one right now. It was Terry Nation, by the way, wrote it. Why do I know that? Yeah, why do I know that? I don't know.
I don't care why you know it. That's how I keep my stress down.
But he wrote that. What was the name of that planet? Well, anyway, it was a twin Earth, but it became a rogue planet. It got further and further out, and they modified themselves.
Oddly enough, that happens in reality. That actually wasn't that far off.
Right. We have seen examples of that happening, of the rogue planet. We haven't seen Cybermen yet. I'm not discounting them. But then the technology took over,
Mhm.
and they started using dead their beings. They were humans, right? They started using the dead tissue reanimated by the now overtaking technology. The technology overtook them. Now that is in science fiction. That's for our audience now. I believe that might be a little bit obscure, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but
I just happen to be a dinosaur. That's all.
yeah.
It's called biomecha.
What is it?
You know, the funny thing is,
Now in anime they call those biomecha.
Right.
Biomecha is where they use where the mechanoids use the biological forms of the creatures that once created them to become the things they live on.
yeah. You know,
You
the
can see
funny
them a
thing
lot
is,
in anime.
I don't watch anime myself. Of course, the reality of it is, I don't like the art in anime. The storylines are great, and I've got nothing against it. But on a personal side of it, I tend not to watch it because most anime has subtitles, and I can't read the subtitles and pay attention to the story at all. You know, but my outlook on when you look at the barrier between when is it enhancement and when is it transhumanism, when you're dealing with necessary senses to work inside the parameter of the normal, of the common everyday person, i.e., having glasses, having false eyes, having eyes that literally all they do is transfer image, not IR, not UV, they just transfer standard optics, is just a simple prosthetic. The moment you start enhancing it to something beyond the human norm, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, a pacemaker simply keeps your heart beating. Thankfully, I don't tend to short those out in other people. You know,
I think that is like the transhumanism is already here. It's something you can't put back in the box. And that
Agree.
that like you just brought up, if your pacemaker runs an AI system to predict its heartbeat, then your pacemaker runs an AI system that predicts heartbeats. There's nothing that you can do about that. I think that is the point right there, where you can no longer do anything about it. You just are what you are, which is a human that's always in transitional state through technological influence.
yeah, because once you've got the pacemaker, getting it out of you permanently can be a problem because people aren't taught how to re-regulate their heart.
Right. There's no way that you can do that. Once that pacemaker has become a part of you, then it is a part of you. You are now transhuman. You know, I'm transhuman. I have a Dexcom sensor that detects my blood glucose.
That is a very good example. Dexcom sensors.
I track my blood sugar through my phone to make sure that I'm at the correct levels throughout my day.
See, here's the neat part. Now that's the way you do it, which is great. I was diagnosed diabetic, right? And then they told me I wasn't, because the diabetic medication they put me on nearly made me go blind. Mm-hmm. So I found a balance point. I don't have a glucose meter, right?
Yeah.
So I have a bottle of Coke to keep my sugar where I like it, a container of salt in case it goes offline. I'm good. My nutritionist thinks I'm right off my rail, but my shrink says I'm okay.
You know, I was reminded of this guy. He lived, and I'm going to try to present this. There was a person who needed a heart transplant, and they didn't have one this person, I will go ahead and just read it a little bit. And the headline is Man Lives 555 Days Without a Heart. And this is from 2016. Let me go back. Larkin's real heart was removed from his body in November 2014. It was replaced with a device that allowed Larkin to stay home instead of in a hospital while waiting to receive a transplant. It is like a pump. Well, it is a pump. It finally arrived this year in May. Now, that's back then. Now, Larkin is recovering from his procedure at the University of Michigan Frankel Cardiovascular Center. Now, he had an artificial heart that was not mimicking a real heart. It was doing the same job. There was no heartbeat. It was a pump. It was a constant pump, constant running pump. I heard about this and I was like, this is an example of transhumanism.
See, this is why I call technology that's useful.
Yes. And this could be considered transhuman, even if it was temporary, to get him a transplant to come in, right? So that is one.
Yes.
And yeah.
Glasses, I think, are a good example, especially now that they're going into the meta glasses or whatever they're calling them, the ones that augment reality.
Yeah, meta
Yeah,
glasses.
those are
Google Lens.
I don't like glasses myself.
Headphones, definitely. I mean, I got a friend who has a pair of what do you call them when they're prescription, not headphones,
hearing aids.
Hearing aids. He has a pair of hearing aids that is so technologically advanced compared to my headphones that it's nuts. I'm like, he can fine tune the frequencies and stuff on his computer, you know, and I was impressed by that.
That is something that's not what I would expect to hear from about a good example, excellent example.
See, and yet this is where I'm a bit of a dinosaur, because these are standard glasses. I used to, if I held my glasses that close, I used to not be able to physically see them. But because I modified my own eyes without technology, I've now got 20/20 eyesight for reading. Doctors are still trying to figure out how I pulled it off, but this is why I say I'm very backwards.
Yeah, the doctors don't understand that when you have control of your body, when you can tell your body what you want it to do, your eyes are literally part of your brain. Yes. Literally. And we have the phrase, why don't you just change your mind about that? You did. And you made it happen. I'm learning that right now because my vision is starting to go a little bit wonky here and there because of this medical condition I got going on. And they're having me.
Medical condition.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm having to bow to the barbarism of today's doctors. They're going to use a laser to cut parts of me out. And it's all I got. It's all they'll do. I want them to clone me a new part, you know?
Well, just make certain they don't grab a hellbore.
That's what I'm about. That's embracing transhumanism right there. Like, if I have a part of my body that is malfunctioning, I should be able to grow a new part of my own DNA and replace that part. There shouldn't be any government telling me that I can't grow my own heart in a jar and install it myself.
No, but I'd like to see somebody do a heart operation on themselves and live. That'd be neat.
It would be neat
to actually twisted, but
no, it's the principle. The principle.
Yeah.
Right. This is gonna be the doctor.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's going to be the doctor. He's going to go, what do we have here?
Eventually,
Well,
it will be though.
You would love the thing, the little short I saw on Facebook one day. All it was a little cartoon, right? And it showed the doctor of the 20th century with the stethoscope and the anesthesiologist with the stethoscope, the needle, and the whole 9 yards set up to put the person to sleep. And then it goes back to the 1800s. And the stethoscope was a shot of whiskey and a baseball bat. You know, I got no problem with technological advancement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. People should have the right to utilize it if they'd like. Myself, I just have me backwards. I look at it going, okay, if technology can make my body do that, why am I not able to? Where's the hole up?
Right.
I don't know yet, but I may be regrowing my front teeth at this point. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm working on it.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I would like to know.
And I know people tell me it's not possible, but
it is, though. Even in mainstream science, they are doing regrowing tissues right now.
Yes.
Oh,
That's why I asked them about this. All cards on the table. It's a prostate surgery. Just in case anybody in the chat don't know, that's what's going on, right? And it's not the removal; it's the other thing, right? But they have been. I asked them. I said, "Hey, what about stem cell therapy for this?" They are not working. No one is working on it as far as my urology office is concerned. Which it should be. It should be at the top of the list. What happened in Star Trek: The Voyage Home? Doctor gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney. Fully functional? Fully functional. That's what it should. That's where we should be.
Really?
That's exactly where we should be.
I agree. And
here's the sad part.
It's the case in China.
The real sad part is they've got the technology to do that already.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
They're
why
holding it back. Go ahead.
I was agreeing. I was saying you're probably fully capable of being a billionaire and getting a pill that does exactly that in China. But, you know, that's just the world that we live in. And that is the reason why I want people to change through transhumanism and to think about it, to think about it. Why can't I grow a new hand and put it on? Why can't I grow a piece of freaking skin and not have to graft it from my ass?
Right.
You know?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Tim, I'm all for people doing that. Okay, I really am. I don't have any problem against it. The whole catch on my end is I don't want to go to somebody else and get them to do it. I just want to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, I think what you do is great.
I've learned to do some of it, not all of it, but some of it. Like a bunch of my scars have disappeared since I've done this. I don't have the one from when I was a little kid on the barbed wire. I had that all my life. It's even in my Army records, right? It's gone. It's just gone.
Would you like it back?
No. There's plenty of barbed wire for me to go get a new one if I wanted to.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I had a scar on my leg for a few years where a cat ran over me, and the doctor even, it's in my medical records now. I went to ask them about that, and they said, they had a hard time treating me because it looked like an infected scratch for years. Then I started doing this meditation and regrowing things. It disappeared. It had been there for years. It disappeared. It's not there anymore. I'm looking for it right now, and it's not there. And I'm like amazed that happened. It's in my records now that I have a scar on one of my legs. It's gone. And that trips people out too.
Well, I'm going to throw a wrench into things here.
Okay.
What would you do if I told you that this transhumanism thing, as far as taking either a biological construct or a technological construct, inserting it in your body to start with, kind of like a cast? Okay, what would you do if I told you that humans have the capacity, and this is the scary part, of taking that organ and completely replacing it with a perfectly healthy, completely organic organ?
Sure.
It literally boils down to accepting it's possible.
Yes. I like that idea. Would you like to expound somewhat further?
Well, ultimately, it boils down to this. When I snapped my arm back in 2010, they had to bolt it to hold it back into place. And they said, once it's healed, we can go back in and remove the plate. And I looked at them and I said, well, why do we have to remove it? Why don't I just absorb it? And the doctor's immediate reaction was, well, that's impossible. I said, okay, so what's your real reason? I said, because we're not going to deal with what's not possible. I haven't been back into the hospital to get it x-rayed and checked, but that metal bar used to set off the metal detectors. Now it doesn't. And as far as I can understand from people, you can't feel it in my arm anymore. And I certainly didn't go back to get it replaced or to get it removed.
What was it made out of?
I have no idea. I can tell you it was 2010 when it got put in. I can tell you the plate was about 6 inches long.
Mm.
But what it was made out of, I have no idea.
Well, that would be.
What I do know is that you used to be able to feel it. Now you can't. At least not according to anybody I've talked to.
It would be great to see if you could get an update, like say, hey, my arm feels funny. Not it hurts, because that opens doors for doctors. My arm feels funny. Can I get an x-ray? I broke it X many 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's a catch with that.
What's up?
I suffer from severe PTSD around the hospital. I can't even drive by the thing without getting the shakes.
Ah.
It's probably titanium.
So yeah, going into a hospital might be a hiccup.
It's probably titanium. It says titanium has a subtle relationship with magnetism. It's paramagnetic, which means it reacts very weakly to magnetic fields, but doesn't retain any magnetism once the external field is removed.
It's possible your body encapsulated it, and the bone around it is blocking any kind of detection. I'm just saying, right?
Oh yeah, and I play the devil's advocate all the time. I really do. But it doesn't change my belief that it's absolutely possible to absorb it.
Yeah.
And to replace
I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't absorbed. I'm just saying that titanium is not very magnetic anyway, so it may have been very easy to absorb.
It may well have been. I don't know. I know from everything I've been told, but the point isn't what I did with it. The point is that it is possible, and I just don't see a problem. This is why I say if you require a crutch to hold your leg together long enough for it to heal so you can walk, why not replace an organ for the same purpose, i.e. the pump that was used to replace the heart? The only one you're going to have trouble with, mind you, decades back, there was a young girl born. She lived 14 years. And when she died, they found she only had the base of her stem, of her brain stem, and 14 ounces of water in her head. There was no brain. And she lived a perfectly normal, an absolutely normal life for 14 years.
We know that from the in modern times, we know that from the chickens. Chickens have had their heads removed,
and they keep running around.
Yeah, and one of them even survived 14 years like that. Its owner continued to feed its brain stem with a syringe.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. I mean, there are limits.
Yeah.
I do remember that one. And I didn't find your example, but I did find one example from 2013. She lived for 6 years with no brain. I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is it might not be your example, but this is another example of this, and it is a known phenomenon. Let me see here. Born. I'm going to bring it up on screen. Go ahead.
It seems, and this isn't just me. This is also anthropology perspective, that intelligence has to be reconsidered. Like, intelligence is not some IQ test. Intelligence has to do with how brains and thinking are actually structured and then restructured. It has something to do with the sweet spot between brain organization and being able to adapt to that very organization.
Right, and that is quite a quantum thing to do.
Yes.
I would say that is quite a quantum thing to do, because what life finds a way.
Yeah, life does find a way. One way or the other, it's going to find its own way.
Mm-hmm. Somehow, with only a brainstem, Kalicia survived 6 years. This is one, and it's a known phenomenon. The word is hydranencephaly, a rare condition. I put it on screen. A rare condition which the brain's cerebral hemispheres are absent and replaced by sacs filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Basically, dirty water.
Yeah, pretty much.
Her mother, April Bear, says she's a living miracle. Okay. I will stop sharing that. So that is, and I will bring that off the screen. So life finds a way. And it has been shown, you brought up electroshock therapy. These in adults, it had been shown that the brainstem usually takes over because it handles all the automatic functions anyway, all the breathing, the autonomic functions, heartbeat, sweating, reaction times, survival things. It handles a lot of that. I wish I had more information, but I'm it's a little outside of my AO, right? To talk about brain chemistry and brain construction, but not totally gone. I can see, because you brought electroshock therapy, where the hemispheres of the brain are basically damaged and they're no longer working, but the brainstem takes over. Those people, those guys, they were prone to violence, and I'm doing my best to remember here. Prone to violence. They didn't have much compassion for anybody because that's like higher brain function. And empathy. They didn't have a lot of empathy, but they were still able to learn to talk, to get by, and there ain't no gas in it, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I got for that one. That's all I can say for that. And it is an understood condition to be born without the developed hemispheres. And it's just cerebrospinal fluid, which is water and grease. Because I do understand that our brains are like salted bacon.
Mm-hmm. Bacon meat
that
machine.
learned how to turn itself into calculus-defining miracle machines.
Yeah, don't ask me how they pull that one off. Although I do swear half the people I know only have half the brain. I'm still debating which half, but
Right.
I'll be right back. Don't go away.
Okay.
This is what's called family first.
I am going to cut the panel short tonight because I am now on a day schedule, and I am all this stuff is coming from the ether. I don't even know how I'm recalling it.
I'll explain.
I had to look up the home of the Cyberman, Mondas.
I'm back.
Okay. But okay, so all right, that was a good talk, Keith. For the last 15 minutes, there is a theory out there. Now let's get away from transhumanism for a minute. It was a good talk. It was a very good talk. I'm not saying this is. I'm saying it was a good talk. I got one more thing that you are specialty in, right? There is a person out there. Not going to shout him out just yet. The theory of invasion of aliens by replacing the population.
Yeah.
Like pod people. Kind of, sort of, but they're doing it through hybridization.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Also known as fear mongering.
True. I agree with you there. But
now,
let's cut it up a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. First and foremost, we can go down one of two roads. If you will, the legal side of it from the off-worlder standpoint, or the practical side of it from the human standpoint. Okay. The idea of bringing a hybridization, if you will. Remember back in the 70s, Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yeah, pod people.
Yeah. That kind of thing. The problem is, it works great until you get that one person that's immune that they can't convert. Right. And there's always a few of them that just are essentially immune. This is why the Black Plague didn't work. Because even when you're trying to override a planet by hybridizational replacement, you got to remember, the moment you start altering the main body of a planet, you're now altering the planet itself. And the purpose you were going after the planet for in the first place isn't going to work anymore. Which means ultimately they'll abandon it anyway. This is why, I mean, if you look at it from a business standpoint, so many companies come in, they buy and they take a look at the company and they go, I want that company. So, putting that in perspective, a race comes in and goes, I want that planet. And they immediately change everything about it. And then the company dies. Okay, you cannot change the population of a planet and expect the planet's viability to remain the same. Well, sorry, you can do that, but you're going to be sadly disappointed.
All right. That makes sense. Yeah, I understand. You can't change the bones of, you can't change what the essence is and expect the organism to stay the same. The organism being the population of the planet on the planet and the planet itself. So if you're replacing the essence, the people, with others, well, you're changing the organism that is the entire thing.
Yes.
Right.
And ultimately, your efforts will fail.
It's self-defeating.
Yes.
And yeah, that is fear-mongering. This person who brought this forward, he thinks there's only one kind of alien, right? There's only one agenda, and I disagree with him. He started to try to embarrass me online And I just disengaged at that point because he wasn't willing to discuss it. He was only willing to preach it. So that right there was telling me, and I've met a couple different kinds. They did not try anything like that. I think I was lucky enough to meet observers and like I don't know, back office operators that aren't really involved in direct communication. The mantis, the guy that I called, he answered the hallway phone. I don't know how else to put it. And observers.
Yeah.
Those people I met, well, didn't meet, I observed them. And I still believe that they were observers. They were living amongst the wild animals, and that's us. And they were seeing how we do our things. And
I mean, let's face it. Take a look at, I believe her name was Jane Goodall, who went and lived with the silverbacks.
Yes.
If you want to learn about a species, go live in their environment.
Immersive.
Yeah.
Immersive education. I agree.
No. I don't have a problem with that side of it. But like, if you have to have anybody, and I've told people, if you really want to convince me of the fact that there's some alien invasion coming, for pity's sakes, call me up. We'll sit down and talk. When it's all over, the basic rule is this. If when you're done a philosophical discussion, if you're questioning your outlook has a hiccup. If you're not questioning it, then you're on the right track. You know, I mean, it's that simple for me.
Right. Yeah, I don't see a takeover agenda happening. I see a scared humans agenda happening. I see humans scaring humans into getting different bills passed, getting different programs started. I don't see a takeover happening because we've said it here before. Why wait until we can defend ourselves to try to do that?
Well, the other thing that we got to look at where it comes to the takeover, whether you're using pod people or what have you, understand something. Everybody is looking at this whole invasion thing. And when I say everybody, it's a little overstated. But they're using human concepts and human technological comprehension to formulate an attack plan and therefore a defensive structure. Well, if you want to take over Earth, it's a simple, done deal. You start with a subquantum EMP pulse from outside of the orbit of Mars, take out the entire planet. We've got no warning it's happening. And we're all the way back to the Stone Age. Because I'm laying odds there are very few people alive today that know how to smelt, just for simplicity's sake, how to even mine coal without a machine. You know, and the whole idea is real simple. When we look at this issue of there's going to be some sort of a takeover, if there is, it'd be like you taking over an ant's nest in your backyard. My guess is you're going to have them dead before they know they're under attack. Because let's face it, a little bit of gasoline, which ants don't know about, is going to completely ruin their society.
Yeah. And also there are molten aluminum.
Yeah, and that's great for making castings. I've seen those.
Yeah. And also that anthill is done. That anthill is done. Their society in that little anthill is done with either gasoline or molten aluminum.
Yeah, but molten aluminum does have the artistic side effect.
Right, it does. Yep, and there is no takeover. I'm going to read this out. No takeover happening. You heard it here again on the Quantum Show. There is no takeover happening. I have said that. I've been right there with you on that. No takeover happening. Lou Elizondo always makes it into my show whenever we talk about this because he is one of them. They're violating our airspace. Well, okay, they're causing trouble. No, they're not. If they were causing trouble, we'd all know about it and believe in it. And most of society that I've talked to, and I talk to the people who run the planes, run a bunch of planes, they don't think that's happening.
I'm just curious if, since you brought his name up, if Lou Elizondo sees it that way, does Lou Elizondo understand that by that same perception that we are invading, or no, we are not, that the birds are invading our airspace and the insects are invading our land space?
Birds aren't real.
Oh.
I had to throw that out there. They're all drones. They're all drones spying on us. They're Wi-Fi powered, and they got super tech from freaking Wakanda in them. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. I had to throw that out. Birds aren't real.
Yo,
no,
the reality is, off-worlders were here way before we were.
Yeah. And I'm with Sitchin on some of his stuff, that we were modified into what we are now. And we were the survivors after they tried to wipe it out. We're the survivors. The floods. I said floods. And yeah, we're the survivors, and we're not back to the state that we were in, Keith, Tim, back in Atlantis. I had the craziest thought. Like this, I told my sister about it today. I said, talking about this medical stuff, right? This wasn't like it wasn't like this before. And they didn't understand. I had that thought come out. It wasn't about my body wasn't like it was before. The situation that we're in wasn't like it was before. We were able to, and this just came out of nowhere. It's one of them download type things, or remembering things, that we were able to do so much and live so well back in Atlantis days.
That's a funny thing. We still are, but we've been taught we can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to get over that mindset, but it's
it'll take a little while.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, but I'm going to keep trying.
Well, I'm just going to give you a quote from Yoda instead of from me. There is no try, only do.
Okay, do or do not.
And the simplest trick in the world is to forget you don't know how.
Yeah. I am trying to remember. I'm working on remembering it. Remembering how to do it. Because I did rid myself of a whole lot of scars. And I would like to see if I still have that problem. I broke my wrist when I was a little kid. And I wonder if I still have that in there. Because they said it, and there's always, you can see it on x-ray. They haven't looked at this since I was a little kid. I wonder if it's still in there, because I used to could feel a bump there, but now I can't feel the bump. And recently, when I started doing this, I always had a bump there, and my arm would sometimes ache.
Right.
Up until the past 5 years or so. And then go ahead.
See, in your case, I'd strongly recommend going down, seeing if you get somebody to x-ray it. You can understand why I won't go near a hospital to try and get it done.
Yeah, and maybe we both need psilocybin treatments. Couldn't hurt.
I'm not knowing what psilocybin's for. I'll leave that for you to try.
PTSD. But okay, I'll try it. I'll let you know.
See, I used to find the 26 or Orion about a half dozen lines of cocaine worked beautifully to relax me.
For a minute, or maybe for a day. Yeah.
By the way, that's not a recommendation for people.
Yeah, not. That is not a good way to do it.
No, it isn't. But at least I didn't count the amount of beer and marijuana that went with it.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, I don't think I can count that high. You know.
Yeah, but I'm going to look at getting psilocybin treatment because I had some articles up for the first hour talking about it. And it is a real thing. It has been being done as experiments. Excuse me. I'm real tired, y'all. I think I need to wrap this panel up. I said I was going to cap it about an hour. I'm starting to see double because I've been waking up at 5 a.m. every day and I need the sleep.
So you've been sleeping in. I like that.
Yeah, I need to sleep. Aussie
I'm working the day on 4 hours.
Oh, I can't do that. Aussie is flashing that light at me now.
4 hours today.
I know you've got that super transhumanism going on where you can only sleep a little bit and be wide awake perfectly.
Yeah,
it's the internet keeps waking you up.
Mm-hmm. But Aussie is flashing that light at me, saying, "Hey, stick to the schedule. Please like and subscribe if you're here. You're quantum." Yep, that was the schedule, Aussie. You're making it happen. I gotta push those buttons, y'all. I've had 2 cups of coffee with mushrooms in it, and it is not helping very much. I just got the little shivers and the little twitches from caffeine, so I need to wrap it up.
You need another cup of coffee.
No, I need to just call it a day. That too, but I'd probably put me to sleep at this point. Keith, Tim, thank you for being on the panel with me tonight. It's been great. Good discussion. I love that we can come here and cut things up, talk about it, the pros and the cons, the yeses and the nos, and the trauma that can lead to people being fear-mongering, because that's and we are so, I don't know, head wound adjusted that we can see through all that crap, and I love that we can come in and talk about that kind of thing. Thanks, everybody.
You know, the thing I like about this is, even though we've got 3 different standpoints here, I didn't notice once anybody getting even mildly agitated about it.
No, I love that. That's what I love that we can do here. We can not get upset. We can cut up a subject, even if we disagree with it. It's okay. We're not gonna. I mean, life goes on. We all still like each other, and
I mean, let's face it. Kim and I agree the sideburns work. Yo,
yes.
My other half would in a way like them gone, but she's not bothering with them because I told her at the get-go they're not going. You know,
right? Yeah, and there we go. There it is. I got to push the buttons. The boss said so. Y'all, thanks for coming on. Everybody in the chat. Thank you. Thanks for attending, listening to us talk about these weird, way out there subjects. And
nice seeing you again there, Tim.
Thank you.
I am pushing the buttons. You know where that comes from, right? The lag that was on it. I'd push the button and it would take like 20 seconds to engage. But I love that it became my very own meme, pushing buttons on the bottom of an empty cup.
Yeah, I've never noticed. Like, I've done it before. I'll pick up my coffee cup and it'll be 3 or 4 times when I pick it up. It's like, it's empty. I'll put it down and carry on.
Yeah.
Until I finally get fed up looking on my coffee cup going, I really should fill that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So y'all have a very good rest of the evening, early morning, wherever it is.
Pushing buttons.
Back here, pushing buttons.